Hello and welcome to the ROKER RAPPORT podcast in association with Sunderland Community Soup Kitchen. My name's Rich Spate and I'm talking exclusively to Tom White of Sky Sports about the ownership situation at Sunderland AFC, who kind of broke the story on Twitter on Tuesday afternoon. So how are you this afternoon, Tom?
It's been busy, Rich, funnily enough, but I'm very, very well, thank you. I've with this story, it's a big story for all of us, and I think when you break something on Twitter, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and it's quite hard to answer them on that platform. So I thought, well, do I do a Twitter Q&A today? Well, that's the same problem. Do I do an Instagram Live? I'll be honest with you, I didn't know how to set it up. So I thought, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll text Gav and see if this might be the best way of kind of trying to answer a few questions, but certainly maybe going into more detail on stuff that I've already broken.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of just set the scene where we're up to, I guess, with the ownership. Obviously, Charlie Methven and Stewart Donald's combined 39% shareholdings up for sale. They told us on the 2nd of March that was up for sale with a prominent broker for £11.7 million, equaling a club valuation of £30 million. Over 2.5 years ago, in January 2020, Donald, after kind of the joint statement from fans, said that he would sell up. He just wants to find somebody for the club who would do the right thing. And this is a sentiment that Methven actually echoed at a similar time, that they would only sell to kind of good custodians of the club. And to be fair, a decent, credible custodian was brought in alongside Juan Sartori and Kyril Louis-Dreyfus, and together they own 61% of the club. But the issue of the 39% remains. So rumours began to circulate the last couple of weeks that some sort of sale was imminent. There was one or two stories about that. One name given to us was John Rees, a Swiss-based Sunderland-born 20% shareholder in Ineos, who would be an eminently credible buyer for any football club. And the other rumour that we picked up on the breeze was that there was an element of fan ownership involved in any deal. Now, we've seen through the article that Dave Brown put out on ROKER Report that the Fans Together, this crypto group that are in the running to buy that 39%, don't look like the kind of people who are suitable to hold a almost 40% stake in the Championship club. And it's really in doubt whether they're going to be able to pass an owners and directors test, even if they do have a legal organisation that could even get that far. So we're at the point where we had a statement last night from Kyril Louis-Dreyfus saying that he'd heard nothing from TFT and that any buyer would have to be credible and aligned with their plans, which does suggest that they have some sort of shareholder agreement providing them with a veto over the transfer of shares, but that's something that we'll explore. And it's left many people, including I think Giles Mooney in the Love Supreme, wondering if this TFT offer is some sort of, other William story, some character that's been lined up to kind of terrify us in some ways. So, Tom, is there anything that I've missed in that introduction? Is there anything that you can tell our listeners about the TFT deal and the kind of the share sale overall?
Yeah, so first of all, your article yesterday was really, really good. Very, very good article, very thorough, very interesting, and informed people on a lot of things that they might not have necessarily known about in the world of crypto. That was brilliant. The Giles Mooney article today, I think, was, I think a lot of it, what he said may well have had a lot of truth. Something that, and I've spoken to him today, the one thing that wasn't quite right is that this group is very real. This group's bid has been accepted. This is with the EFL, and it's not just there to scare us. William Story never got anywhere near this. I've never ever spoken to William Story, but I know that he was never ever taken seriously. This one is being taken seriously. But I'm going to take you back quite a long way. I'm going to take you back to when we knew that Stewart Donald and Charlie Methven were looking to sell at least some of the club. We thought they were actually looking to sell all of it. Turned out they were looking to sell some of it. And it was very quiet for a long time. And then a friend of mine, an ex-colleague called Ed Aarons, broke the story. I think he's at the Telegraph now, about Kyril Louis-Dreyfus.
Mm-hmm.
Great journalism. He was absolutely right. The story was right. The only thing is it took a heck of a lot longer than expected. It didn't go through until February, and I think he broke it in November. So it took a long, long time, and he got that bang on, and it came out of nowhere. No one else knew that. But before Kyril Louis-Dreyfus took over, I was taking a lot of phone calls from people representing various groups who were interested in buying the club. And there was a heck of a lot of interest. I don't think that's a big surprise to anyone. These people would phone me up just for a little bit more information that I might know, given what my job is, but mainly as a Sunderland fan, asking me what the Sunderland fans actually want from their ownership and such like that. And none of them came to anything. Some of them I spoke to once and that was it. Sometimes I'd get little updates from them, but eventually they all fell by the wayside. To be honest with you, all in the end, it always came back in one way or another. It all came back to money and the price that Donald and Methven wanted for the club. And that's fine because Kyril Louis-Dreyfus did come in, and I'm a big fan of his, by the way. So you fast forward to about, I'm going to say 2 months ago, it might be more like 6 weeks ago, and I get very, very similar phone call, but from a group that I'd never heard of before. So a representative for a group called the Fans Together, they phoned me asking exactly the same things, asking me about the club, what the fans want, even asking me what I think of Alex Neil and such like. And again, put the phone down and you think, oh, well, that's probably it. They're interested in buying Stewart Donald and Charlie Methven shares. Let's see where it goes. And you kind of put it to the back of your mind. Mm-hmm. But in fairness to them, they kept updating me on what was going on. And I still, it's very early days. You still don't, I've heard this so many times before that I never really, it's not that I didn't think they would get this far. It's that I've seen it before where people have eventually said, oh yeah, it's too much money. Or in the end, obviously, we got promoted and I thought, well, that might ramp the price up even more. And when I really started, when they really got my interest, is when at Sheffield Wednesday at home in the playoffs, they had 2 representatives in the boardroom. A third representative joined the boardroom post-match as well. And that's when I thought, crikey, I might actually have to make some phone calls here and find out a little bit more about them, find out what's going on. And because if they're in the boardroom, that means things are more advanced than I had maybe thought. Again, at that stage, as a journalist, I could have broken that. But then again, how do I know? There might be someone in the boardroom every week who are looking to buy shares and I just don't know about them. So I thought, is it really news? Does it actually move the story on? Is there a story in this at all? So still nothing, but my point is this has been going on for a very long time and still had nothing to say. And I didn't really speak to them at all prior to the final. And then when we won the final, that's when they got back in touch to say, right, things are moving. I might have something for you in a few days. Again, still always skeptical. But at this stage, I can tell you that they had agreed a price before the final, 2 prices, one for League One, one for the Championship. Thankfully, we won the playoffs for all of us. Brilliant. Best weekend ever. I say best weekend. It's been like the best few weeks. Not stopped celebrating. It's been brilliant. And when we went up, a heck of a lot more interest came in those shares. A lot of people were after those shares now that we were Championship rather than League One. But this group were already advanced. They'd already agreed the price. I put out that there was advanced negotiations with one group, with Donald and Methven. And then it got to the stage where the bid had been accepted and things were really moving onto the stage of EFL. And that's obviously when I was able to report that, but still I'd been asked to not name the group. And remember, when people compare this with William's story and everybody says, oh, he just wants to get his name out there. And I don't know, because I've never met him. That's not an accusation that I'm putting at him. That's an accusation that is put at him. This group didn't want their name out there. The only reason their name came out yesterday is because a much better journalist than me, clearly at The Athletic, he had found their name out from another source. He'd done a lot more digging. He had given them the courtesy, the fans together, of saying, right, I'm going to run this story, that's what you do in journalism. You get the story, you check with every side, you at least give people a courtesy call. He did that, and he said, I'm going to go with this story. And that is when, once he was going to go with that story, and it was brilliant journalism from him, once he was able to name them, it was time for me to name them. And that's where we got to, really. And then, of course, there was the statement from Kyril Louis-Dreyfus that evening. But everything that has been reported by both me and from The Athletic as well has just been pure facts. I've given no opinion, and I won't give any opinion. I haven't talked about any speculation. I've just given the facts. And when it comes to Sunderland, that's what I like to do. I break a lot of transfer stories in January and over the summer, and I don't retweet them myself. I put the story out, it goes out on Sky Sports News, don't even put my name to it publicly. But when it's Sunderland, I feel that we maybe don't get the coverage that us as fans would like. I feel like I should report it myself so that the fans actually know what's going on, because on Sky Sports News, it can get buried. We're now Championship, not League One, but somebody buying 39% of our club isn't going to be top story. Whereas in Sunderland, it's absolutely top story. And that is where we're at. But everything that has been said by both me and The Athletic, to my knowledge, is correct. The Athletic actually got a statement from Charlie Methven, which I haven't. They've got some direct quotes from Charlie Methven, which I haven't got. But this story, whether we as fans like it or not, and I can tell from the reaction what the answer to that is, this story is true. Whether or not this goes through, a heck of a lot of question marks over that, a heck of a lot. But everything reported is fact. And remember that Kyril Louis-Dreyfus' statement didn't actually deny any of that, but it's quite clear that he's not happy either.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing, and I think the thing that people will pick up as an inconsistency, is the fact that he said that no employee of the club has met with TFT, which, from what you've said, doesn't align with the facts of them being in the boardroom at games that we know that Kyril Louis-Dreyfus was in attendance.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the one thing that has kind of baffled me a little bit. But at the same time, if he says he's never met anyone from TFT, I've never been in the boardroom. I don't know what the boardroom looks like. It may well be that he keeps himself to himself. It may well be that he's in an office somewhere, walks out, watches the match, goes back to the office. I don't know. And I definitely would not question anything. There's no way that Kyril Louis-Dreyfus would lie, by the way. So if he says he hasn't met them, then he hasn't met them. All right. As for employees at the club, well, they will have met them because they will have been taken to the boardroom, but they might not have known who they are. I think the point is, it does appear to me that statement was saying this is being done without my knowledge. And he keeps himself to himself, Kyril Louis-Dreyfus. So this is something that obviously feels strongly about, which is, as fans, it is nice to hear from your owner. Yeah. I think everyone would agree with that. And I think the statement was quite welcome in that regard. And I don't know whether he was angry at TFT. I don't know if he was angry at Methven and Donald. He may well have been angry with me and others who had broken the story, maybe. But either way, it was actually quite nice to hear from him. And I already know that he is absolutely dedicated to the club, and this absolutely proves it. So there's positives there.
Well, there's a question that comes up now, time and again, though, in relation to exactly what you just said there, in terms of Louis-Dreyfus's commitment to the club. Obviously, but earlier in the year, Steve Davison and Kyril Louis-Dreyfus made it pretty clear that over the summer they would look at the possibility of purchasing Donald and Methven's shares from them. That was, I think, outlined in statements. It was outlined, I think, to the Red and White Army and the supporter groups, and certainly there was a very big inference that would be the most preferable outcome. Lots of fans would like the Louis-Dreyfus family to take over, 80% or more of the club and to put this issue to bed once and for all. We've seen Margarita Louis-Dreyfus pitch side at the Stadium of Light the other week. We've seen Philip Hildebrand, her husband, at the Royal Box at Wembley. So it begs the question, why are the Louis-Dreyfus family and Sartori, who are not short of £11.7 million or even a 50% uptick on that for a championship bonus, promotion bonus on that share price, why aren't they taking that 39%?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And while all this has been going on, it's my information from various sources that Kyril Louis-Dreyfus was never, not never, that's not fair. Right now, he wasn't going to buy these shares. He's happy with the amount of shares he's got. Remember that he's got 41 and he's got the controlling stake and he is chairman, right? Mm-hmm. Does he need an extra 39? When he's got that, he's got Juan Sartori with 20. It's also my information that those two get on very well. Those two work together. So if you add those two together, you've got 61% there. Does Kyril Louis-Dreyfus really need to buy the other 39? So my information was that he wasn't interested in this extra 39 at this stage anyway. And he is happy. And I can, when I describe it like that, I can sort of see it. If he's happy with what he's got and he's still controlling it and is chairman, does he really need to spend any more money on it? It doesn't seem like he wants to work with this group, but he may well want investment elsewhere. It sounds like he does want investment elsewhere, and that still might come. And it's the reaction to this has been, I had a feeling that the reaction wasn't going to be great to this once we named the group. All right. And I knew that. And there's a lot of anger. And it's very interesting, this, because it's a situation that's quite new to me as well. Because I'm a mental health first aider, right? Mm-hmm. And I know a lot about mental health. I'm trained on how to speak to people who are struggling. Mm-hmm. And that's why on Twitter, by the way, my DMs are open purely because I'm a mental health first aider. People abuse that, by the way, sometimes, but I let them off. If people have got genuine questions, I get back to them anyway. And if people want me to do stuff for charity and stuff, always happy to. But with this one, as a mental health first aider, a feeling of anger is fine. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel sad, so whatever. In this situation, that feeling of anger is fine. But you've got to direct it at the right people. And at this one, it's quite hard because who actually can the fans direct it at fairly? Can he direct it at me or anyone else who's broken the story? Well, no, obviously not, because we're not championing anything. We are just giving the story. It is our job. And, I don't think anybody can't really take anyone seriously who is aiming at me or any other journalist. Is it fair to be angry with Donald and Methven? Should they have held off and sold them to someone that as fans we would have been more excited about? Well, if they're trying to sell their shares and only one group or one person matches their offer, then is it really fair to blame them for that? I don't know. Is it, a lot of people are angry towards Kyril Louis-Dreyfus saying, why doesn't he just buy the shares? But as I've just explained to you, if he's happy with what he's got, why would he? So there is no obvious place to fairly vent your anger in this situation. But there is anger out there.
Yeah, and a lot of it's been directed, and I think probably justifiably, towards this group that is using the idea, the language around fan ownership, around fan engagement, around fan participation, to potentially sell its cryptocurrency that hasn't launched yet. And when we look at how cryptocurrencies and tokens have been launched in the past, what they require is buzz and engagement from an already kind of attached audience, an audience with a stake, who will come in and at their initial token offer, which is still forthcoming, you can go on one crypto site and buy the option of 2 million of these TFT coins at launch, which hasn't happened yet. They own 92% of that stock of TFT tokens. So if and when this goes through and if and when they offer them out to Sunderland fans, they stand to make a substantial profit. And if people don't engage with it, they stand to be left high and dry without any money. So it kind of begs the further question. I don't know if you have any information on this or not. But when we spoke with James Cave and Martin Calladine, they talked about a corporate structure, the DAO corporate structure that this organisation has, which is only licensed in a couple of US states, doesn't really have a legal equivalent in the UK, and that 7% of the organisation is owned or offered out to private equity. Do you have any idea where the money behind this deal comes from? Have you asked that question of TFT?
Yeah, I've got no idea where their money to actually buy the shares are, but I wondered at first, and this a question I did ask, I wondered if they were actually paying for the shares with cryptocurrency. That is not the case. I wondered if that was the case because I knew that they were involved in crypto. That is not the case, and that's been confirmed by various people. So they obviously have some sort of backing from somewhere. Now, on that, as far as the fans together are concerned, I'm expecting over the next days and weeks, but I think probably days, they are going to be trying to engage with the Sunderland fans a lot more, right? Now, that won't be certainly through me. I don't think it'll be through any other journalist. It will be by themselves. Because as far as I'm concerned, I've broken the story. There shouldn't really be anything for me to report on now unless it either collapses or goes through, as far as I'm concerned. But they are wanting dialogue with the fans. However they choose to do that, I don't know. And they will do that in any way because they accept there are a lot of questions as well. But they think that listen, you might laugh, but they think they can turn the fans around here. All right, they think they can turn the fans around. And in terms of the anger towards them, I think anger towards the fact that it is them and not, because this would very much be an unknown, rather than other people you've mentioned there who we know have got loads of money. It's far more traditional way of doing things. Anger about that, I mean, definitely. Anger towards them, I mean, if something's for sale and they're trying to buy it, I'm not really sure if it's fair to put that much, to be angry with them in that regard. I think that might be a bit harsh as well. That's why I'm saying I don't know where we should vent our anger, because I can kind of defend, I can think of a defence for everybody involved.
Yeah, I mean, you've been very fair-minded about it, Tom. I have to be. My riposte would be that this entire industry is built off the back of trying to make money out of ordinary people, and usually people who don't have as much information as they do, and that I think we should be extraordinarily sceptical. The way that they phrase things in their white paper, which I really do encourage everyone to go and read, you can get a link to it on the article that was on the ROKER Report, is that they want to engage via the Red and White Army, via the Supporters Trust, and they even claim that they're going to offer seats on the board and 20% of the equity that they buy to any club that they purchase. Obviously, they already own a 20% stake in a Greek second division regional side, which they've also sponsored to the tune of 170 grand. But none of these tokens have been issued. This is a completely untested model. And as I said, it uses the language of fan activism, of fan ownership, where it patently is not that. So I think if I sound a little bit angry, it's because I care deeply about the idea of actually of fan engagement, of fan ownership, and of fan activism, and to have a group of essentially financial engineers try to use my football club and the ideas around fan activism that have been developed over very many years by some fantastic people in and around football clubs up and down the country and around the world, to try and sell a cryptocurrency that they will make money off the back of, I think is where a lot of the anger comes from. People don't like to think that they're going to have the wool pulled over their eyes, and they don't like to think that our club is going to be experimented on by some people who have basically no experience of doing this.
Yeah, I think you've explained that very, very well. You know, I think a lot of people will agree with you. And it's not just anger, is it? There's fear as well, because we've seen what's happened with various clubs. Some fans have lost their clubs. So in terms of the sort of the process to bring the owners and directors test, everybody needs it to be robust, because we've kind of been there before, and it's all very well thinking, oh yeah, but Kyril Louis-Dreyfus has got loads of money, so he'll always bail us out. But if he's not keen to work with who's coming in, then that is something to be fearful for. So anger and fear, absolutely fair enough, and you've explained that very, very well. But as things stand, this is where we're at. This is where we're at. Now, I must say, I know that the Athletic had, in the quotes from Charlie Methven, they said there was a second bidder. Don't know if that's true or not. I certainly, if it is true, I don't know who the second bidder is. I know there was a heck of a lot of interest, but I know this lot are further down the line than anybody else. Oh, and by the way, when people, I know there's a few people who kind of, I know that ROKER Report, he had accused of it a lot, of kind of just saying whatever Charlie Methven says to you. When I was told that the bid had been accepted for their shares, just out of courtesy as a journalist, you have to kind of approach the other side to say, we are running this story. Is there anything you would like to add or deny or confirm or anything like that? I'd never had Charlie Methven's number. As a journalist, I was able to get it. I was able to just ask him, and he gave me nothing. He actually just said he texted a mutual friend of ours to check who I was. He didn't even know who I was. Mm-hmm. So although I've met him once, Gillingham away when we won 4-1 in our first season in League One, that's when I met him, and he didn't know me from Sky Sports News. He just met me, hello, as a fan. Journalists will never reveal their sources, but I don't mind saying that none of this has come from that side, is what I'm saying. I've, out of courtesy, have said what I'm running, because that's what we have to do, but it hasn't come from that side.
Well, that's good to know. I do think it's really important. I've seen a few people on Twitter saying, reveal your sources to us, to you, to the Athletic, etc. And that's not how the media works. If we want people to keep being able to write and broadcast about what's going on at the club and to keep people informed, then we need to be able to do our jobs behind the scenes and to work away and beaver away and do our research and speak to people to be able to bring you the latest from the club. So I think we've been pretty comprehensive, Tom, and it's been very interesting. I think I've learned a lot more about the situation. I'm not sure I'm overly happy with what I've heard, but that's not. I'm not going to shoot the messenger in any way, shape, or form. I just thank you for your time and being open and honest, and just to give you the chance, if there's anything else that you wanted to add in that you think just that fans need to know about this process.
No, it's just nice to be able to kind of go into more detail on things which you don't always get that platform to do, which is why I spoke to Gav earlier. It's nice to kind of explain things a bit more, and also just to kind of let fans know, really, that let the Sunderland fans know that we are, like you often do, we are just reporting the facts. I have not in any of this, I haven't given my opinion on anything. I am not giving my opinion on anything. I don't mind giving an opinion on a Sunderland performance on a Sunday morning on the ROKER Report podcast. I don't mind giving an opinion on a player when I'm doing the transfer shows on Sky Sports News. But with this being business related, it's not my area of expertise. This is just a story that I've got, and my job is to report the facts, and that is it. There'll be no opinion from me on it.
Well, there'll be plenty of opinion from us, because that is our role as a fanzine and a podcast. Absolutely. And we will be, I'm sure, publishing quite a lot coming up as this story develops. We'll be keeping a close eye on your Twitter feed, Tom, and on Sky Sports News and on all the other outlets who are trusted by fans. We'll have loads of content on the website, everyone. We'll also have a Lasses podcast coming out later this week, which will be discussing all the latest developments with Sunderland AFC women, because there's contracts and retained lists and even potentially a new signing or two that should be coming out in the next few hours as we're recording. So we'll have all of that news as well as our regular historical pieces and all the bits of fun that you can find on Roker Report. So thank you very much, Tom, for your time.
My pleasure, anytime.
And thanks for listening, everyone. Ta-ra.